In 1972, when I moved to New Haven, there was a vacant strip of land between the two multi-lane sides of the Route 34 extension. In reality, the Route 34 connector does not go to Route 34. It is just a highway where the Oak Street connector dumps cars beyond the exit ramps of Interstate 91 and 95 to El Grasso Boulevard. Bordering these lanes are two shabby neighborhoods, West River and The Hill. That empty, unintended strip was a silent witness to the displacement of immigrant and ethnic communities in New Haven. I knew that both neighborhoods were traditionally black and that New Haven had a history of racial disruption at the end of the 1960s, which was highlighted in the trial of Black Panther Bobby Seale for first-degree murder. I also knew that New Haven had a history of redlining, racially motivated housing discrimination that grew out of the housing and loan programs of the 1930s New Deal of President Roosevelt. What I did not realize was that the empty space between these two black neighborhoods housed not only blacks, but also the immigrant factory workers who were mostly Irish, Italian, Jewish, and Eastern European. The white immigrants relocated outside the city to neighboring suburbs, with the black residents remaining within city limits. The history of U.S. city planning and renewal has been defined by the visions of the various presidential administrations, which have brought highways, low-income housing, and re-engineered the diversity of our cities. An unintended consequence of these policies was a flight out of the cities that often resulted in increased racial segregation, compounded by a loss of heritage and community in collective remembrance. Using the inspiration of photography that highlights the spectral evidence of traumatic locations suggests the importance of this empty strip of land. For example, this approach is the basis for the photos Execution Squares. The images in this series are present-day photos of the places where the bodies of executed criminals were publicly displayed. More examples of this type of trauma can be found in Dirk Reinhardt's photos of the Holocaust sites and the photographic traces of the lives of prostitutes in the Citadel. Local leaders such as Richard Lee of New Haven had grand visions of replacing slums with access to and from the suburbs. In this feature spread in Life magazine, the demolition is framed as positive reconstruction. However, the photos taken after the demolition show the devastation. Nothing remains of these neighborhoods. By the 1970s, construction had been halted in New Haven, and the Oak Street connector and the Route 34 extension divided ethnic neighborhoods from each other without any passage between the neighborhoods. This area was left undeveloped from the 1970s to 2014, when a plan to reconnect neighborhoods was introduced by Mayor John DeStefano. As Catherine Carruth observes, trauma interrupts a translation of seeing into knowing when there is only disappearance. A haunting, a specter exists, rendering any knowing or resolution of the trauma impossible. This urban renewal created a disappearance of personal stories, eliminating a connection to the past. In my documentary, I will highlight the personal remembrances of these lives using interviews housed in the Yale archives. Today, New Haven is once again reshaping itself. Large biopharmaceutical buildings have already been built connecting Yale New Haven Hospital to downtown New Haven. This documentary will remember these communities with their rich heritages and origins and hopes to lessen current political divisions. This erasure of these immigrant experiences fuels resentment and increases a perception of the other. One remembrance of this diversity in New Haven is the Italian neighborhood of Wooster Square. Wooster Square was not demolished but renewed. The importance of remembering these people goes beyond the small city of New Haven and speaks to the struggles many Americans have with immigration within our borders. For any traumatic representation to be authentically received by the community of spectators, there needs to be a transference of that victimized experience into the core of the collective sense of identity. Without acknowledging those immigrants, there will be an increasing separation and division into factions as citizens struggle to understand their role in their history and future.